Making sure that we have a quorum. All right. Calling the Tompkins County Legislature meeting to order for Tuesday, December 2021. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Roll call of members.
Leslie Show. Mike Sigler.
Here.
I saw him.
Can't hear you.
Here.
Thank you.
Shauna Black. Here. Amanda Champion.
Here.
Deborah Dawson.
Here.
Henry Grandison.
Here.
Rich John. Dan Klein.
Here.
Ann Foreman.
Present.
Mike Lane.
Here.
Dave McKenna.
Here.
Glenn Morey.
Here.
Martha Robertson. Here. Leslie McBean Claiborne.
Present.
We have 12 members present.
Thank you. Proclamations, petitions, communications, and notices. You received any communications and notices? I don't have any proclamations. We will have an executive session this evening. County Administrator Lisa, are you here? Yes, we will. Okay. And we're gonna bow through this agenda tonight. Let's go to purchase of the floor for the public. Is there any public here who wish to speak with us?
There is.
You say there is?
Yes, I think we had one sign up. It's Zachary Wynn. I just promoted Zachary to panelist here.
Okay.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Mr. Wynn.
Thank you. My name is Zachary Wynn, and I would like to speak out against the mask and vaccine mandates. I would be there in person, but our unelected Governor Hochul has saw fit to ban members of the public from speaking face-to-face with their representatives. Tompkins County is not a COVID hotspot. This is an imaginary crisis brought on by Cornell's surveillance testing and false positives resulting from the testing of individuals who are asymptomatic. I would like to ask you all to please speak out against these mask and vaccine mandates. It is making hiring next to impossible. People are not willing to come out to even just to eat, and it is resulting in further economic damage to this community. I know that as the new year unfolds, there will be a new membership of this committee. And I hope that going forward, you'd be able to acknowledge your role in damaging relations between local law enforcement and the community. Dr. Goff of the Center for Policing Equity, it turns out is an agent of George Soros' Open Society Foundation. And this entire endeavor is being funded by individuals set on dismantling law enforcement as it exists. And in the long term, even in the short term, it has been tremendously damaging. I would like you all to please check out a letter that was published by the Ithaca Police Benevolent Association on their Facebook page regarding the dismantling of the Ithaca Police Department. And it remains to be seen what effect a new contract and bonus will do to their attempts to recruit through lateral transfers. It is almost certain it will have no effect on the Tompkins County Sheriff's ability to attract new officers. I also point you towards the events going on at the Art House on the west end of Ithaca, where a number of at-risk individuals, many of whom came from the jungle, are now causing a near constant need for law enforcement activity, mental health calls, so on and so forth. Rich John was present during a a talk about the West End that was given recently, and he can make it clear the crisis that is unfolding and the anger that is coming from the residents there as to the complete lack of response from the legislature, city hall, or the common council. It seems more like this total breakdown in law and order is more like the plan unfolding as opposed to a side effect of a bad plan. And I look forward to seeing you all in person. Leslie, you're wonderful. Everyone have a wonderful evening and have a nice night.
Thank you, Zachary. Thank you. Happy holidays to you. Next on my list is Nevin Sabet. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Hi, it's Naveen Sabat. It's Naveen Sabit. You got me saying it wrong.
Naveen Sabet.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just hoping that you got my email. Because I don't really want to read it, and I don't know if it follows the rules because it talks about personnel. But so just to zoom out and to hopefully those matters can be addressed specifically. But I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. When my family first moved to the United States, I should say the title of my discussion is a request for this body of government to denounce Islamophobia and to take it seriously, because I've been laughing along at the jokes for the last 20 years, but they really hurt. And especially because these wars on mostly Muslim countries are, before that, these lands, not these lands, but lands around there were colonized by the West. And I think it's very important to understand the effects of colonization on people and why they end up having to seek refuge when wars are fought on their lands. But specifically to my story, I want to tell you, when we first moved to America, I was born in England, where my father was doing a PhD. But we couldn't stay there because Thatcher was unfriendly to immigrants. But my father was recruited to Southern California to work in the engineer, whatever space, ironically, the space, whatever, that kind of engineering. But we would go to the mosque downtown on Vermont Avenue on Sundays for Sunday school to try to learn our religion. It was very difficult in that setting. I grew up in a suburb. I grew up in Simi Valley, where the Rodney King trial was. I graduated high school the year of that verdict, so it was very significant on me, race relations and justice issues. But one Sunday, the speaker was Muhammad Ali, and he brought his daughter Layla, and I was about 8 years old, and she's a year younger than me. And Muhammad Ali, when everybody was like, "That's Muhammad Ali," and I ran right up to him. And he asked me if I would play with his daughter, Layla, because he was going to have to sit with the adults. And I was very happy to play with Layla that morning and afternoon. And at the end of the day, he came and found us and he kissed me on the cheek and thanked me for playing with Layla, his daughter. So I just really want to emphasize not only the importance of Islam in other countries and the people who come here, what a sacred and beautiful religion and disciplined faith it is, but also there's so many Black Muslims in our country, many in prison, who depend on Islam as their only hope. And I hope this body of government and our community can support a Black Muslim community center on State Street, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you, Naveen.
Thank you, Leslie. Thanks for your service.
Thank you. I don't have anyone else on the privilege of the floor for the public. And we've got a couple of things we're trying to move up. Do we have any municipal officials with us? That's reporting. Not tonight. All right, we'll move on to A pleasure for legislators? Any legislators?
Henry
Okay.
seconded.
Oh, Henry?
Yes. Actually, I have two privileges of the floor, but I'll do the first one first. The Bell Sherman neighborhood is actually having a solstice celebration. Luminaries on the solstice. People are lighting fires, little fires on their yards in front of their houses. So I'm not there, but people are doing it. People are walking around having a festive time as they celebrate the solstice. So I would encourage you, if you're not watching this, to maybe tune out and go watch the solstice. Thank you. I'll come back and do my second one after Leslie.
All right, you sure you don't want to just finish? All right, Leslie?
When you're done in Bell Sherman, come on downtown. Solstice is happening everywhere tonight. And so walk around, bundle up, enjoy community outside, wave to your neighbors. It's nice to see folks. It's a lovely evening. Yes, there are candles everywhere downtown. And I also just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to all of you, my colleagues, my legislature colleagues, as well as to the community and the public and to District 2. This is my last meeting as a legislator. It's been an honor and a privilege and a great learning opportunity. I highly recommend people put your names in the hat, go out and run, represent your community. You really learn a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you for stepping up and for your service on this legislature. Mike Lane.
I think it was President Grover Cleveland who said, a public office is a public trust. And that means a lot if you think about it. We're losing 5 of our members tonight. Martha Robertson, Dave McKenna, Glenn Morey, Leslie Schill. Who did I forget? Our chair, of course. I'm not looking at you.
I'm not
at this point. Leslie McBean Claiborne. My apologies for stumbling there. You folks had a lot of experience on this legislature. You've brought a lot from your communities with you. A lot of great ideas, a lot of hard work. As one of the members that's continuing, I would just like to say thank you to each of you. You have certainly fulfilled your public trust. And I think that is what we are here in public service about. And you have my personal thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so very kindly. Deb Dawson.
Thanks, Leslie, and thanks for that, Mike. I totally agree that our departing members will be very much missed. I want to thank Ms. Naveen, and I won't even try to pronounce your last name because I can't remember which way is right, for coming and speaking to us tonight. I wish this body had the power to change the dynamics of hate and bigotry. I think we just each have to do our best individually. And thank you, and I hope things improve.
Thank you, Deborah. And, just something you just said, this body 2 years ago, I believe, and even prior to that, passed a resolution denouncing all forms of hate. And we did, have a laundry list, against xenophobia, against racism, against all the isms that we can think of, because we feel very strongly that we want to promote a community that is inclusive, that is welcoming, that is open to to everyone. Sorry, there was a strange noise in the ceiling. That is open to everyone and welcoming to everyone, and that no one should feel not only excluded, but no one should feel the wrath of hate because of who they are. And so we take it very seriously. So thanks, Deborah, for mentioning that. Rich John.
Thank you, Leslyn. My name was mentioned in privilege of the floor. I did attend two meetings, one generally including business owners and residents in the West End, and a second one with business owners. And it does seem as if there's something fundamental going on in terms of changes in the amount of property crime and difficulties in the West End. Certainly more to come there. I'd like to thank Cynthia Brock and George McGonigal for organizing that meeting. And the mayor attended the last one, which was good, and our district attorney. So more to come there, I think. But I would encourage my colleagues here to try to get up to speed on those issues, because I think we're not going to be able to ignore them in our coming year. And I'd also like to add my voice to thank the 5 of you who served for so long and were a great help to me coming in and joining the legislature in understanding how to be a legislator and the work that we do. I'd also commend you all for working to the finish line, that you've all been here and attended the meetings right to this last one and worked hard. And you deserve some real commendation. So thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Rich. Martha Robertson.
Well, kind of on that note, it is, there's just a lot to cover from 20 years. And it feels like, I just was talking to Kathy and, Kathy Covert, and, a lot happens in 20 years. I mean, Leslyn and Mike will remember the chambers on the other side of the parking lot, all the way through, just, many changes. It's really been an honor and a privilege to serve the people of the town of Dryden. And I hope to add something for the whole county, but I really want to say a huge thanks to my colleagues over those 5 terms, all different colleagues from the legislature, and also especially to our staff. We have an amazing team here, and I hope the incoming legislators will learn that you can really get the information you need quickly from our staff. They're solid, they're professional, they really know what they're doing. And they also have a real good sense of kind of where the legislature role is and where the staff role is. And that's a very, very important partnership. And, we couldn't do anything here without our staff. So, and Lisa, I'm trying to remember how many times you've had the interim title in front of your name. So talk about stepping up. Lisa, it's been a pleasure to work with you since, you were the deputy in COFA. So, it really felt like each of us is able to make a difference. So I encourage every incoming legislator to sort of grab a hold of this opportunity. This will be something that where you really can make a difference. So thank you all.
Thank you, Martha. Sean, and then Annie, and then I'll come back to Henry.
I think Annie was before me. Go ahead, Annie.
I wasn't quite ready. No, I wanted to just quickly thank each of the outgoing legislators for their help in making me be a better person and a better legislator. And I will reach out to you each individually. I could go on and on. And as I said to Martha, we're going to have coffee. And but I just wanted to thank Leslyn, Martha, Dave, Leslie, and Glenn for all they've done. For me is the least. Well, maybe not the least, but it's just one part of what they've done, their commitment to the county and to the people of this county and beyond. is really astounding. So thank you. You should all be very, very proud of what you accomplished here. And we're going to stay in touch because I have each of your cell phone numbers. Thank you.
Thanks, Annie. Shauna.
So 4 years ago, we had no idea what we were going to embark upon. We've seen a pandemic. We have seen something maybe even a little bit more bizarre, $19 million that has been given to our county. And we're all still standing. And
Barely.
barely standing. Thank you, Deborah. And it's in large part to the legislators around this table and on the Zoom this evening. I want to thank, I'll start off with Martha. 5 years ago, Martha approached me via email and said, hey, you want to meet for coffee? That coffee turned into me running for the legislature. So I want to personally extend my thank you to Martha. We spar often. We've had some really good arguments, but she is relentless and she has definitely done a lot for this county. So thank you, Martha.
Thank you, Shauna. Thank you for leading that march to Washington. So that's where we met.
My pleasure. And Glenn and Dave, every time I see you, I tell each one of you secretly that you're my favorite Republican. And I want you to know you're definitely, both of you are my favorite Republican. Sigler, next year, it's you. But Dave and Glenn, Dave and Glenn, you're absolutely, it's been a pleasure to work with you both. I really enjoyed learning from you. Leslie, your time was short, but you brought a lot to this legislature. I appreciate your perspective. It's always great to have someone with a planning experience. And, you know, I wish you the best. I'm sure our paths will cross with Cornell. And thank you for stepping up. I mean, it was a bizarre election, not knowing if you were going to have another term or not. And you really, really worked hard. So thank you. And then last but not least, Leslyn, I appreciate being the Robin to your Batman. I appreciate all of the calls on the weekend, in the evening. Leslyn was one of the first people that I called whenever my father died, and it meant the world to me. You are not just an incredible person, but an incredible leader and someone that comes around, I don't know, once a century. I could say once a millennium. I want to just reach out to you and say thank you so much for mentoring me. Thank you for being part of this county and contributing on a daily basis, whether it be through the legislature or at GIEC. And I am going to miss you dearly.
Thank you, Shauna.
Here, here.
Thank you. Henry.
Yes, I'm back. I have an announcement to make, but first, a little background. The Tompkins County Legislature established the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee in January 2005 to advise the county government on ways to develop, sustain, and preserve a rich culture of diversity and inclusion within the Tompkins County government. This committee, composed of staff, legislators, and community members, since then to help the county adopt a diversity statement, and which you hear about tonight, and diversity policy guidelines, among other operational documents, such as a recruitment resource guide. This committee recognizes the value in publicly acknowledging and commending the initiative of every person or organization demonstrating a clear commitment in respect of the equality, diversity, and inclusion agenda. To that end, the WDIC advises that the Tompkins County Legislature establish the Tompkins County Strength in Diversity Award. to be given out annually or quarterly following a nomination and selection process.
The purpose of this award is to recognize individuals, community groups, nonprofit organizations, and businesses within the Tompkins County boundary that have demonstrated outstanding achievements, a sustained commitment to the pursuit of cultural diversity and inclusion, and advocacy of basic civil and human rights in our community. The goal of this award is to support further creation and dissemination of resources that will assist individuals, community groups, nonprofits, and businesses within the Tompkins County boundary and continuing to develop their vision and commitment to diversity and inclusion, in fostering and sustaining diversity and inclusion throughout their institutions, as well as integrating diversity and inclusion into all aspects of their work.
Now we want to name the award. So based on her distinguished and exemplary service, the WDIC has agreed to recognize and honor Legislator Leslie McBean Claiborne, 2000-2021, as the first recipient of the Strength and Diversity Award. After bestowing the recognition in the Strength and Diversity Award, will be hereafter named the Leslie McBean Claiborne Strength and Diversity Award. And
Leslie's contributions include established and created the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee, led the creation of the first Tompkins County Diversity Statement, served at every position of leadership within the Tompkins County Legislature, becoming the first person of color to serve as its vice chair and then chair, spurred the creation of the initiative aimed at improving the climate within county government regarding justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Longtime mediator within the Community Dispute Resolution Center, mediation skills trainer, established the City of Ithaca's historic Southside African American Heritage Walking Tour, involved with the City of Ithaca's Dr. Martin Luther King Freedom Walkway Committee. Leslin was also the recipient of the New York State Harriet Tubman Humanitarian Achievement Award, co-recipient of the City of Ithaca J. Diane Sams African American History Month recognition, Cayuga Radio Group's 20 Outstanding Women You Should Know, Tompkins County Human Rights Award for Community Advocacy and Diversity Leadership, Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services Lucy Brown Community Leadership Award, Tompkins County Women Making History recognition, LGBTQ+ Ally of the Year for 2017 from Finger Lakes Pulse, and also a doctoral candidate with the University of Southern California. This is not an exhaustive list, but includes some of the highlights throughout Leslin's career so far. Leslin has touched countless lives, and her impact on this community cannot be overstated. As I wear my Black Lives Matter hat and my LGBTQ pride scarf, I ask you to please stand and join me in celebrating Leslin McBean Claiborne as the first recipient of the Leslin McBean Claiborne Strength and Diversity Award.
Oh, holy Toledo, y'all are some sneaky people. Wow.
And we have a plaque and a small gift, a token of our appreciation.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you, everyone. There's not a lot that catches me by surprise. My family will tell you that, and this one did.
I'm glad we were able to surprise you, Leslie.
And it means the world to me. Oh my gosh, y'all, I had a whole speech planned out for what I'm gonna say, and now I'm all discombobulated. So please bear with me. In 2000, September of 2000. The story is long, but I'll tell you, I got told that my name will be on the ballot to replace my predecessor on the Tompkins County Legislature. And that elections were that November. Now, you have to campaign. It takes about a year and a half. These folks are telling me you have 2 months to understand what it all means, knock on doors and get people to go vote for you. In 2000, I will tell you, I had no idea what's the difference between Democrats, Republicans, any of it. And they said, well, you're running on the Democratic ticket. I said, okay, whatever you all say. And so, well, when people run for office, they have to raise money. I'm still fresh to the country. And they said, don't worry about it, we got it. And I thought, oh, they said, all you have to do is go knock on doors, introduce yourself, let people know who you are. I was like, most people know you already. Just, go out and do it. And I did. And I don't regret any moment that I spent on this legislature. It has been one of the most rewarding experiences outside of getting married and having my children that I have had in my life. And I am proud to have served Tompkins County residents. I'm proud to have served my constituents. I am proud to have had the support of some of the people I see on the screen here, Karen and Patricia and Travis. Oh my goodness. I could not, when you do things, you have that support system. And I couldn't have done it without so many of these folks. And so I want to just stand here very quickly and thank my family. I see Gerard's logo. I don't know if he's here. I know he was hosting a veterans event tonight. I shared that my daughter Indira, hi Gerard, grew up going to all her meetings. We knew her first word was going to be resolution or motion, whichever, and it probably was. But they stood by me. They supported me throughout it. And I'm going to lift up my late mother, who I know still stands as my guardian angel, because without her, I couldn't do it. So thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad, for being there. Thank you, family. My son, Kelsey, my son, Julius, all there. My late nephew, Virgil, who did not miss any election event, any event related to my term in office or my place in office. He didn't miss any of it. He was there and he was present, and I want to lift him up as well. He just passed away this past July. It's who I went home to Guyana for. And the community has been there. I want to recognize the members of CLOC who are here. They're some of the people who you go back to and you say, hey, this is what's going down. Help, show up, spread the word. Give me some advice. Where should I go with it? Shelley, Patricia, Karen, I don't know who else, others who I can't see. Again, I said, Travis and JR and many others. They have been there as this community supporting me.
They showed up when we've had issues at this legislature that were controversial to the communities of color, or something that was going down that would affect me, in adversely. They will be here to say, we got your back. And so I thank you for that. Thank you, community. And I have to thank my GIAC family. Goodness knows. Those folks have said to me over and over again when I say I'm done, they're like, nah, you can't be done. We got GIAC. You go do that. And they have had GIAC. And so I thank them from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to do this. Martha said it. The true leaders in this county are our staff. Let's not get it twisted. They're the people with the expertise. They're the people oftentimes with the vision that we should go in a certain direction. They're the people who bring the resources we need to be able to make the decisions that we make for the benefit of the entire county. And staff, I thank you all. I know it has not been easy. Lisa, Amy, Katie, Sheriff Osborne, just everyone. It hasn't been easy. Kit. And especially over these last 2 years. But you've been there. I've served in just about every committee of this legislature. I've chaired several of them, years and year in and year out. And without the staff, we couldn't do the work that we do. So I want to stand here and recognize and certainly give them a big old round of applause for their leadership, because without them, our leadership does not come through. So lastly, certainly not least, I want to thank you, my colleagues. You've put up with me. I'm not, usually the most vocal or whatever it is. Oftentimes you don't even know how I'm going to vote in something. But you stayed there for the ride. We were there together. Wherever it was going, we may not always agree and be on the same side of the table. We did. And one of the things that I strove to do, my time in this legislation, especially over the last 2 years in leadership, is to make sure that although we have two parties represented here, that the work we do and the decisions we make are bipartisan, not just one over the other, and worked very hard for that. And we did it. There were times when we're like, you can't believe I'm, agreeing with Mike Sigler. We're picking on you tonight, Mike. Well, we did, and that's because we know how to work well together in Tompkins County and to do what's right for our people. We knew that when COVID hit and people needed to be tested and vaccinated, that we had to step up and put the resources together, because it's not just the people who could afford it who should get it, it's more so the people who can't afford it. And we did that. No one turned around and said, oh, no, we're not gonna vote that extra money. We did it, and we did it together because it affects all of us. And that's just one example of the decisions that we made together. And I am proud to have served and to be able to continue to push that bipartisanship along. I'm not the only one who did it. We had other chairs who've done that as well. But I want to make sure that I recognize that. I don't do anything. I haven't done anything alone. None of us has done anything. I remember the newspaper asking me, what's your biggest accomplishments? And I had to think about that. Because I said, I didn't accomplish anything alone.
everything that I've done, that we do together. There's always someone else who's gonna second a motion, vote for it, be a brain thrust, whatever it is. You don't do it alone. And if you're in this, and for our new legislators coming in, if you're in this for ego or money, you're in it for the wrong reasons. You gotta come in here because you want to do something for people. You wanna do something that's gonna push our county to a whole new level. Not just gold standard anymore, but platinum standard. We lead in the state of New York, and we wanna continue to lead. And so I beg of you, think about your reasons for being here and make sure that those reasons are grounded in justice and equity for everyone. I thank you all for this award. I thank you so much for recognizing the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's nothing more important to building an organization than having everyone in it feel, and I know the WDIC people are gonna probably chuckle at this, feel that they have total citizenship in this organization. You will build the best place to work, the best place to be when everyone feels that they have equal citizenship. DEI has to be the cornerstone that builds this organization. It has to be. So please continue to do that. Thank you all for the recognition. Thank you for allowing me to serve, to be chair for 20+ years, to be here the last 2 years leading through COVID. Thank you all for being by my side and allowing me to be by your side. Thank you all. No, I'm not joining any advisory boards, committees, anything just yet. I really appreciate all of you. Whew, y'all moved me to tears. That was a surprise. I'm gonna find out who was behind it and I'm gonna get them. Bear with me. I just have to say one last thing because I think it's important. I like to give Jack and Jill their jackets. When you work for a different municipality, it could be difficult to be in elected office because often you show up at the table with the people who are your bosses. I work for the city of Ithaca. And so I do want to take this time to say thanks to the former Chief of Staff, Dan Cogan, and also to Mayor Myrick, who both have supported me being in office, encouraged me to be in office, to continue my legislative seat. Although oftentimes we're sitting across the table from each other, dealing with issues that we might have to have, disagreement around. It's a strange place to be in because that's your boss in one end, but they both encourage, and I do want to thank them for that. All right, let's move on with the agenda. I have under my chair's report and appointments, I have one appointment to the Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance, Terry Carroll. And then I have my own recognitions that I would like to hand out. So I have some certificate of appreciation to some of my colleagues. We're the class of
2021, those of us who are going out, and we rock. That's all I got to say. So I have a certificate of appreciation presented to Glenn Mooring in recognition of 6 years of outstanding service and dedication to the Tompkins County Legislature and the constituents of District Number 9, Town of Groton, and portions of Town of Lansing and Town of Dryden. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Leslie.
Sharing your Ritz cheese crackers with me, cheese sandwiches with me when I had no food and I was hungry. Certificate of appreciation presented to Leslie Schill in recognition of outstanding service and dedication to Tompkins County Legislature and the constituents of District Number 2, City of Ithaca. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie.
Certificate of appreciation presented to Dave McKenna. That's my buddy over there, y'all. He was my favorite before yours, Shauna, so get it right. In recognition of 11 years of outstanding service and dedication to Tompkins County Legislature and the constituents of District Number 8, Town of Newfield, and a portion of Enfield. Thank you, Dave. Much love. And Dave is always the best dressed, y'all. The best ties. I've been trying to steal them from my husband, but you know, he keeps them close to him. I also want to offer a certificate of appreciation to Martha Robertson in recognition of 20 years of outstanding service and dedication to the Tompkins County Legislature and the constituents of District Number 13, Town of Dryden, Western Part. Thank you, Martha, for 20 years of service. I feel a certain kind of way because we almost came in together and we're going out together. Look at that. But thank you, Martha, for your years of service. Certificate of appreciation to Michelle Coco in recognition of 37.5 years of outstanding service and dedication to Tompkins County. And Michelle is one of our deputy clerks here in the legislature. Michelle retired this year, and Michelle, we miss you dearly. But thank you for your service. Fashion, Kathy Covert will receive that award in your honor. And a certificate of appreciation to Jonathan Wood in recognition of 30 years of outstanding service and dedication to Tompkins County as our county attorney. Jonathan.
Thank you.
Much love and thanks, Jonathan. You want to say anything, Jonathan? This is your chance, man.
No, it really has been a pleasure to serve. And I look around and, you know, none of the people who are currently on the legislature were on the legislature when I started. There's been a lot of people and a lot of different things. Like Martha says, 20 years is a long time. A lot of things happen, and 30 years is even more. And, you know, a lot of different things have happened over the years. And I really have always been treated well by this legislature, and it's always been a pleasure to serve it. And I thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Jonathan and Michelle were just like grade school when they started, so.
I hear you, Martha. But thank you everyone for your dedication, your commitment, your service. Tompkins County is a better place because of all of you. And whatever you do, moving on from here, best wishes with whatever it is you plan on doing. I plan on sitting on a beach for about 2 months and not getting up. That's all I'm saying. Shauna.
Surprise, surprise, we couldn't let you give yourself your own certificate of appreciation. So I would like to present you, Leslyn McBean Claiborne, in recognition of 20 years of outstanding service and dedication to the Tompkins County Legislature and the constituents of District Number 1, City of Ithaca.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. Ooh, thank you all very much. I think that note, we're gonna end the meeting. People are teary, they can't hold it together. Like, oh my goodness. Wow. Beautiful. All right. I'll get it together. We don't have any special topical presentation or discussions tonight. And so I'm going to move on to reports from the county administrator, county attorney, and director of finance, county administration. Lisa Holmes.
Sure. We do have a COVID update tonight, but prior to that, I did want to make just a couple of remarks and one very brief update. Just wanting to add my voice to the honoring, celebrating the service of our 5 outgoing legislators, Leslyn, Martha, Dave, Glenn, and Leslie. I'll reach out to you individually as well, but just to say, I know it's not an easy thing to run for office. If you're lucky enough to win, it's even harder to serve, I think, in local government, and you all have had to make a myriad of difficult decisions during your terms in office. You've all done the hard work to understand these important issues, to represent your constituents well. And I just want to thank you for all the hard work and time and dedication that you've all shown in serving Tompkins County. I want to thank you personally. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. I respect you all, and your contributions to this organization speak for themselves, and you all are going to be missed. So I just wanted to add my voice to that, and on behalf of county administration.
Lisa.
Sure. I do have the one quick item to update you on prior to our COVID update, and that's unfortunately late yesterday, we received the news that the Public Service Commission denied the county's petition for rehearing around the funding for the geothermal system installed at the airport. Since this issue is something that this legislature was aware of and involved with, I wanted to let you know tonight, sooner rather than later. The PSC's logic was that the airport project was already largely complete at the time of the PSC's RFP. So for all intents and purposes, this issue is now settled because this was our avenue for appeal. There's no other avenue for appeal for that. So that unfortunately kind of closes out that issue. I wanted to make you aware of that. I don't know if there are any questions there. If not, we can jump right into the COVID report.
Martha, and then Mike, did you have your hand up? Martha, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that report, Lisa. A number of us were involved in that whole project since 2014, I think. Katie Borgella, Ed Marks, Irene Weiser, and it was a very long road, and I'm just going to take a little privilege here because why not? Ours was the first initiative in the state to do a non-pipes alternative, where we said to NYSEG and to the Public Service Commission that we instead of building new gas infrastructure, new fossil fuel infrastructure, we think if you put money instead into alternatives like heat pumps, that the future, we can move forward instead of backwards, that we can actually solve these problems. And it was the first time the Public Service Commission said, yes, let's do that around the state. And now that is the policy and the way forward for New York State, and I hope for the country. So this is something, you know, this is sort of a thought at the end of it, but in fact, I think our appeal was correct, that the timing was misrepresented, and we can't do anything about it. We were certainly told that even though we were planning the geothermal at the airport, it would be eligible for this funding. They sort of reneged on that for the way I see it. But at any rate, one thing they wrote in that opinion was right, that we were going to do it anyway, that we were going to build a geothermal system at the airport because it was the right thing to do. And this county has very often done the right thing and done it first. And later on, other people go, oh yeah, all right, yeah, of course we should do that. So a little, certainly disappointing, but not a surprise that this decision came this way. But I think everybody can be proud for 6 or 7 years of work to convince New York State that this is the right thing to do regarding fossil fuels. So just wanted to take a moment and thank Katie and Irene and Ed Marks and others for working on this for a long time. Thanks.
Thank you, Martha. Thanks for that background as well. All right. Go ahead, Lisa. I don't see anyone else.
Okay, so I will turn it over to Amy and the team for the COVID report for this meeting.
Okay, I'm hoping you see the full screen. I just said to Dominic, it's been 22 months and I'm still not sure what I'm sharing when I share. And on that note, thank you all for our COVID update. I'm sure you've anticipated this. We're now on slide, I think these go to slide 301 from the COVID response. So we've been doing this for some time. We'll go through a bunch of these tonight and then we'll take questions at the end. So what has happened since we last came together? I think you know that there has been a significant increase in cases. Hospitalizations have also increased. We are at 19 hospitalizations. And unfortunately, there have been 8 deaths since we last came together, 5 of which were last week. So there was a lot of change that has happened. At the same time, there's been a lot of movement at the state and federal level and a lot of discussion at the state and federal level. Frank will talk more about how that's impacting us and what some of our decisions are here in Tompkins County. There are some updates here, including a memo that moved us into the mask and vaccine mandate, as well as vaccine sites opening up across New York State. A lot of that has included, for us, we've seen increases in testing. Our testing programs have increased. We have seen changes in operations, Cornell operations. Obviously, it's changed and shifted as they went into that red alert level. That was just last week. As you all know, in COVID time, there is no time. So I am often confused what happened yesterday and what was 2 years ago. We've also seen some school districts go remote again, and we continue to vaccinate. We had 2 clinics last week. We are taking a slight break from some of these clinics so our staff can hopefully recharge. We'll talk a little bit more about our staff. That team has been phenomenal. Our staff throughout the organization have stepped in and tried to help and assist, but we are many months into this pandemic, and with high case increases and other things happening, it is a small team that is doing a lot of different things. Total testing, the surveillance testing from 9/1/2020, when we began this contract, through 12/17, the county has paid for 53,523 tests. That is a significant number of tests that our community testing program has afforded us. That is huge. In a lot of other places, there is not a testing site that people can easily access. And while there's still challenges with ours, and we would like to, make it more accessible in a lot of ways, it is a lot of access. And I think Leslie spoke of it. Now, you guys have really supported that. You've supported us in reaching all of the community. Lots of communications. I can't believe that the town hall on 12/9 really was right before all of the new activity kicked off. And we talked about what the variant could look like and how it could interact. And it was right after that we were up and running again. Because of some of the high case numbers, our delays in contact tracing has occurred. We are still doing case investigations and contact tracing, and we're still doing them at a decent level. Again, I can't say enough for what our team has taken on. We have heard of contact tracing and case investigations taking weeks, and even in our high volume days, we're not there. We're moving as quickly as we can while providing really high quality service and making sure that people know what they should be doing. We are continuing to update people on what is happening with Omicron and how that is impacting us, as well as how to handle that. So there's a lot here. And we also had a hospitalization and death and prevention strategies PR press release go out this afternoon. So we can talk a little bit more about what that means and how that moves on when Frank joins in just a moment. As far as COVID hours and expenses over time, here is the regular slide. I just ran the numbers on our Fema reimbursement. So in total, our testing has been about 5.3 million as of today's invoice that I received. So we've been putting forward about that and testing, and that includes that initial or the second contract where we helped with the initial expenses to set up the test sites. We went back and did that. We have submitted 4.6 million to FEMA for reimbursement. There is some delay sometimes with that. We have to have canceled checks. So we have to invoice, have payment, and then we can submit for reimbursement. And at this point, we have 2.8 million that we've received in reimbursement. So that gives you a little bit of an understanding of where we are. It's been interesting as other counties are just starting to file their first FEMA reimbursement. So I am thankful that we are moving through that process and we're aware of how that process works. Messaging updates. I skipped over the highlight, and I'm going to turn this over to Frank now so he can talk more about messaging. But for those of you that missed Frank on CNN, here is a picture of Frank at that 11:30 time slot. And so Frank, are you ready to take this over now?
Yeah, I guess I have to now. Yeah, that coveted 11:30 slot where I think only my friends, family, all of you are the only ones watching. But yes,
That late. Yeah.
It certainly was an interesting experience. Wish it was for different reasons. So just on messagings across the board, the PIO team has been doing amazing work with getting signage out about masking, running advertisements. Our business and holiday guidance is out, talking about the mask advisory and the state mandates. And of course, I was late to this meeting because I was doing an interview with Channel 9 and talked to WENY earlier today. So we're trying to get the message out about what's going on here in Tompkins County. And we've got a lot of data to share with you all tonight. Amy, if you want to go to the next slide. Oops. Thanks. And so Amy said it, but I think it bears repeating, a thank you to the staff at the county and at the health department. It's hard to believe that we'll be going into a third year of this response here in a few weeks. And it really has taken, a monumental effort from a relatively small group of people when you think about, the county employees and the health department and mental health staff. And so just want to take a moment to thank them all. It certainly is a team effort, and you certainly see in these pictures that it's many, many departments have played a role in doing this. I don't know if folks saw the picture we took with Santa one day when we were at the clinic, but I think there were 7 or 8 departments represented in the 10 or 12 people in that picture. So it really has been a team effort, and I just want to offer my thanks to all of our county staff for their effort. So before I jump into the data, obviously Amy's covered the highlights. We've seen cases go up pretty dramatically, much of that driven by the higher ed population. And I want to start by saying, I think while right now, if you look at our data, we're an outlier in the state with number of cases, and in some instances an outlier in the country, but I don't really think we're an outlier in cases so much as we're an outlier in our infrastructure for knowing what the disease looks like in our community. And so that's a testament to the support that you all have provided, that Amy was just talking about, to Cayuga Health Systems for standing this up in March of 2020, our testing efforts, and then Cornell, coming to the table and adding additional resources. So while yes, our numbers are high, I think it's because we truly know what's going on with the disease in our community, and many other places, unfortunately, don't have that capacity to know. So that being said, it's, I'm sure it's troubling for our community to see numbers skyrocketing above anything we've seen before. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what it's meant from hospitalizations and unfortunately deaths, and there's some details about those particular indicators. But what I want to afford you all in the community is a little bit of hope as we go forward, before we start talking numbers. We know Omicron is here. Another thing that we're extremely fortunate to be able to know for a community our size, again, with Cayuga Health Systems and Cornell being able to provide that information to us quickly. And it's not because they received funding to do some sort of special sequencing program. They're doing research, as any world-renowned research institution would do in these types of situations. And because they saw the immediate community need, they shifted their research priorities to give us the information we needed as a community to better respond. And so I can't thank the folks at the lab and Cornell and Cayuga Health for really putting in a monumental effort to give us the information that we have. We don't have all the information. We don't have the answers to everything folks want to know. What we do know is Omicron is here. We know that predominantly in the student population, the spike was caused by Omicron. We know that we've seen the indicators, in the pre-screening indicators in community cases. There's more community case screening going on right now. So in the next few days, we'll have an even better idea of how much Omicron is in the non-higher ed related cases. And so that's really going to help us know how Omicron is progressing. But what I can say is I'd imagine within a few weeks' time, Omicron is going to be the predominant strain. But until that happens, we're still dealing with Delta, right? And so Delta has been problematic. And we knew that in other parts of the country, it has increased hospitalizations and unfortunately deaths. And I think as we're looking at our hospitalization and death numbers, we are still looking at a Delta influence on that. So I want to be clear that all the data isn't in yet. They are prioritizing hospitalization positive test results so we can get an idea of Omicron within that population. We don't have it yet, but we will soon. But I do believe that the severity we're still seeing is Delta influenced rather than Omicron. So, as we progress through this, if we can transition to Omicron being the predominant strain, and it does turn out, we don't know this for certain, but if it's looking positive that Omicron may be a less severe, a milder form of the illness, that it can overtake Delta and ultimately help us, in our effort to move through the evolution of our response to COVID. So, a lot going on, a lot of information that folks want that we just don't have yet. We're fortunate to have what we do, and we're going to continue to share as much as we can, as quickly as we can, and try to tell the story about what's going on here in Tompkins County. So All that being said, I probably shouldn't have had this slide sitting up there this whole time while I gave that conversation. My apologies. But we've had a lot of questions about the resident deaths and what is the age and vaccination status of this. And so you can see this is still certainly from the most severe reaction to COVID. It's still a problem for the elderly, our seniors in our community. Vaccination status certainly matters. But as folks age, it becomes less. It becomes more common that folks are fully vaccinated, and quite honestly, the reason for that is as we age, we become more susceptible to all respiratory illnesses because our bodies are not as able to fight them off successfully, and so it's not surprising to see this data the way that it is. But it definitely paints a picture that there are still people in our community that are at risk, even if they've done everything that we've asked them to do. So we need to continue to be vigilant.
If I can ask a question, it's Martha. If you don't mind going back. So we had, as Amy said, I think we had 8 deaths in the last 2 weeks after only just a very small number before that. So, but you're saying those were probably Delta and not Omicron. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's our inkling now. I can't say that for certain because for many of them, we will not get sequencing the data on them because they happened before the shift to doing that type of sequencing occurred. Hopefully, as we move forward, we'll know more information about that as a reprioritization has occurred.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And I want to point out, we're using the February 1st date as kind of a demarcation on when the first people vaccinated would be considered fully vaccinated. So if they got their first dose in late December, their second dose mid-January, by the beginning of February, the first people vaccinated would start to be considered fully vaccinated. So that's why we use that demarcation line for this data. And so you can see here with the data in particularly with December, our vaccinated versus not vaccinated resident deaths are vaccinated are the majority of them. So that is indicative of what we've seen, happening over the last few weeks with the illness. Go ahead, Amy. So if we focus, I would say that the death number, while tragic that it is what it is, it's still relatively small. So it's hard to draw significant conclusions. So as we move into the hospitalization data, it starts to give us, a little bit better picture. Still relatively small numbers, but it gives a little bit more of an indicator. And it really hasn't shifted much. Our hospitalizations, particularly if you're under 70 years of age, vaccination status plays a big role in whether or not you need hospitalization related to COVID. So that kind of continues on the same trend that we were seeing pre this current spike. And obviously we'll be monitoring that, in the coming weeks as we do transition to Omicron to see if there's changes. Leslie asked a question, does vaccinated equal 2 shots or is it 2 shots and a booster? Right now, fully vaccinated is the 2 shots for Pfizer and Moderna or 1 dose for Johnson & Johnson. The booster is not in the definition for fully vaccinated. So our daily active cases chart, obviously, I think we had to change the axis a bit from where we were because I think everyone's aware at this point that our numbers spiked up in December. A large proportion of that was related to higher education and what we believe was the Omicron variant spreading in that population. Vaccinations still continue to tick up. We don't have specific booster information. The state is trying to parse that information out for us. And as soon as we know more about booster percentages, we'll certainly share that. You can see the tick up related to the 5 to 11-year-olds that we started in November. And I'd like to point out that we're pushing close to 50% of our 5 to 11-year-olds being having 2 doses on board. So still making progress there. Have a ways to go, but still making progress. The age distribution across our cases. Now, as we start looking at the demographics of this, it's going to be heavily influenced by the higher education students, of course. So you see that here, that, you know, the 10 to 19 and 20 to 29 spiked up, and that obviously brings the percentages down in all the other age groups. Similar with the race distribution, other race spiked up. And so that, you know, would account for how people self-identify when identified as a positive case. So, you know, we're expecting that the higher education population is what's influenced that shift. Same with our ethnic distribution. And I think you'll see the same with, well, we just showed the race one. So vaccination status of positive cases, you'll notice this doesn't include last week. So it doesn't have the highest spike in it, but things have continued to trend along, that our fully vaccinated lines are lower and smaller, and hopefully over time that will continue.
And that's the end of our slideshow tonight. And I do want to say a big thank you to Frank and his team again, just acknowledging all that has gone into it. And even to prepare this slideshow takes a significant amount of time, and running through that data and calling it all. So thank you to everyone that's helped with that.
Thank you. Legislators, I need to ask for your indulgence for a minute. We have a municipal official with us. Is he still here? Who is waiting for a resolution that's member filed, and he has to go to municipal.
Young kids that he has to put to bed.
Yeah. Oh, is he here? So if you all would just please just hold your questions for Frank and Amy. And Amy and Frank, if you'll hold on for us, I really appreciate it, so we can take up this resolution. Hopefully that's okay. Thank you. So Annie, let me call on you to bring up the member filed resolution that you have.
Thank you. The resolution that I'm submitting is resolution requesting Governor Hochul earmark funds for the purchase of Camp Barton. Do we need to vote first to get it on the agenda?
Yes, we do. Yes,
Okay.
we do. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Martha. All right. Let's roll call vote to put this on the agenda. We need at least 10 votes.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Grandison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslyn McBean Claiborne,
Yes.
14 ayes, 0 noes.
All right, so now that's on the agenda. Annie, would you go ahead and move it, please?
Yes, I'd like to move the resolution requesting Governor Hochul earmark funds for the purchase of Camp Barton.
May I have a second, please?
I will
second
second that.
Seconded by Deb Dawson. Any discussion? Mike Lane. Oh, sorry. Annie first.
Thank you. I just wanted to make note that our Environmental Management Council for Tompkins County just sent a letter to the governor and Pam Helming and Anna Kellis, and the latter two are working on a state level to help purchase this camp. And if we could put it, I would like to hand the mic over to Roden Hart, the mayor of Trumansburg, the village of Trumansburg, to just give us just a quick background on this.
Sure, for a couple of dollars, Roden, you can speak to it.
Leslyn, for you, more than a couple dollars.
Thanks, Roden. Good to see you. Go ahead.
No, thank you all. And I do appreciate you adjusting the agenda as we continue to do the virtual schooling juggle for a couple more days up here in Trumansburg. But I'll keep it short. Basically, Camp Barton, which is in Seneca County, town of Covert, has been owned by the Boy Scouts for almost 100 years. And as most of you probably are aware, Boy Scout councils from around the country are being asked by the national organization to contribute to their Survivors Trust, which is part of the bankruptcy settlement that the national organization has gone through. I was approached a few months ago by some residents who are concerned about the possible sale of Camp Barton. The village of Trumansburg, half of our water distribution system comes from a lakeshore well that is located at the camp. And we have a permanent easement that's been in place for that lakeshore well since 1968. But there is some concern about what a sale and potential development could do there. Subsequent to residents asking me to get involved, I was actually approached by a couple of members of the Boy Scouts Council who said that they do need to sell the property, but would local municipalities be interested in potentially injecting ourselves somehow into the process? Might we be willing to be a custodian of the property and so forth? So in conjunction with the town of Ulysses and the town of Covert, we began to think about possible ways that that could happen. This is all happening, as you would know, with Bell Station as the backdrop, also happening almost immediately across the lake from Camp Barton. So what has come out of all of this is a notion that if the governor's office would be willing to step in, probably in conjunction with state parks, who is part of the conversation, and if the state was able to purchase the property, then the towns of Ulysses and Covert and the village of Trumansburg could contract to manage the property as public space for parks and recreation. We have a recreation department, the village does with the town of Ulysses. It could also handle overflow from Taganic Park when they're busy in the summer and so on. Assemblymember Callis is now involved. She feels that preserving the entire parcel is key because it does run along Route 89, and preserving scenic byways is part of the state's achieved goals throughout upstate New York. So she has been in contact with the governor's office. They are aware of it now. We have an online petition circulating that's approaching 3,000 signatures. And so the legislature's support for this will be very helpful, and one additional thing that will hopefully get Governor Hochul's attention.
All right. Thanks, Mayor Hart. I have Mike Lean and then Martha Robertson.
And if would it be friendly in the last resolve to add our other two senators to get copies, Obermeyer and O'Mara?
Sure. That'd be friendly.
Friendly to Deborah as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Very friendly. All right, Martha?
Thanks, Mayor Hart. Good to see you. You or Annie, where is the, so this is in Seneca County, right? I'm
Yes.
sorry, look, Seneca. Right. Where's Seneca County on this? Have they taken a position?
Well, Seneca County has been to this point relatively silent. In fact, the town of Covert initially was relatively silent on the matter. Their deputy supervisor is a former village of Trumansburg board member, actually, who now lives in the town of Covert. She is actively involved and has moved their board to take an active approach with this. But we have not heard anything, or I have not heard anything specifically from Seneca County yet.
Okay, I mean, I think this is really important. Thank you very much for the leadership on this. You know, my son was a Boy Scout, you know, spent several summers there, and, you know, it's a really beautiful and special place. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, let's vote on it, please.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Granison,
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Rich
yes?
Check. Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lean,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslie McBean Claiborne,
Yes.
14 ayes, 0 noes.
All right.
Yes, Martha.
And I hope this could be sent to the State Association of Counties also, because letting
exactly.
them know that this is in the works, they've been helpful in the past.
All right,
Thanks.
will do. Thank you very much. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Mayor Rogan, for hanging in with us. And like Martha
Thank
said,
you
for
all.
you all for your leadership. And happy holidays to you. All
And
right.
to you as well. And to you as well, and Leslin, and for the other 4 who are, for whom this is your last meeting, thank you all for your service. I don't know you all well. I do know Leslin. I do know what it's like to sit on a board for a long period of time. So thank you for all the hundreds or thousands of hours of effort that you put in for the county over the years.
Thank you for that. Take care. All right. Thanks, legislators. Let's go back to Amy and Frank, the COVID report and the questions. Deborah.
Thanks, Leslin. I'm probably not going to articulate this as well as I should, but we had public comment tonight that included a suggestion that we really don't have a COVID problem. It's just some sort of glitch that's created by Cornell's surveillance testing protocol. And I've seen similar comments on social media recently. People seem to think that as soon as the students go home, everything's going to be fine and COVID's going to disappear. I don't know. I mean, I don't know much about medicine and biology, but from what I'm reading, I don't think there's any reason to believe that there are far fewer asymptomatic cases of Omicron in the general population than there are among the college students. It's just that there's no protocol that requires the general population to be tested. So I guess my question for Frank is, I mean, is there any reason to think that this is just a problem that's confined to the Cornell population? I mean, shouldn't we continue as, you know, just general non-student residents of Tompkins County to be careful and understand that Omicron is trending into our population and we're all at risk?
Yes, to the short answer to that. The more in-depth answer is there are things that college students do, like communal living, communal meals,
right,
socializing, that is a little bit different than how the average person lives their days. But we're about to enter a 2-week period where we start to act a bit more like a higher education student, where we're socializing with more people, gathering for meals and social events. And those are the types of situations where we're seeing the spread even amongst the higher ed students. So we have a pretty healthy COVID caseload in our community numbers. We've had it for a couple of months now. Do I think it will spike to the same volume as it did with higher ed? I don't know for certain, but we have seen the transmission is occurring more readily, particularly in vaccinated people, right? Because the student population is highly vaccinated. So we can't let our guard down. We absolutely can't. And regardless if you took the student population out of the equation, we have several families in our community this week that are mourning the loss of a family member during the holiday season. And so there's work to be done by all of us to be vigilant and take what really aren't significant steps, right? Wear a mask when you're around other people that you don't live with. Try to de-densify when you can, good hand hygiene, but most importantly, get vaccinated and get boosted so that we can protect those that are most vulnerable in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have Leslie, Henry, and then Martha.
Yes, thank you. Great presentation, certainly stark numbers and something for us all to take note of as we go into the holiday season when we're planning to mix and see folks that we don't normally see. So please take good care, everyone. A couple of questions someone put in the chat, and so I just wanted to bring it back to the top, the question around the not eligible population. Before that was everyone under 11. Have those charts been amended since the 5 to 11 population has started their vaccination?
So I believe it would be reflected in the most recent weeks, but it wouldn't go back in time, of course.
Sure.
Right. So yes, and it's not just those that are age ineligible. There are folks that have contraindications to the vaccine and other reasons that they might not be eligible.
And one more question. Earlier today, it was circulated from Cornell that it will be expected that all faculty, staff, and students be boosted as part of the requirement for spring semester by January 31st. And I know you shared at Health and Human Services the other day, you're expecting to hold a booster clinic sometime in early January, the date not yet set. But just wondering if that's going to amp up or create more of a need to either coordinate, collaborate, but create more vaccine and booster clinics in January.
Yeah, of course, we will work with our higher education partners to plan for any additional demands that might be created by the student populations and any mandates that they put in place. Many of the students won't become eligible until mid-January, so we still have time to plan to be ready for that.
All right, Henry.
Yes, thanks, Frank. I just have a few questions. A constituent of mine talked about how that testing site at the mall has been filled the rest of the week and everything else, and that also home tests are flying off the shelves in Ithaca, although Joe Biden is supposed to announce 500 million will be done. Is there any ideas about how to get more testing in the Ithaca area?
So it's a big question, Henry, and I try to break it down a bit. Cuyahoga Health System stood up over 100 more appointments each day this week in order to try to meet the increased demand. What I can tell you based off of the information they've been able to collect, there's a lot of people getting tested at the mall so that they can have a holiday gathering. Right. And that's not what the mall testing really was intended for. It really was for folks that are symptomatic or have had a close contact that really have a medical need for it. And unfortunately, because of all of the tests. So we're kind of a victim of our own success, right? We've made testing so readily available that folks are using our mall testing where other places they would be using rapid tests or over-the-counter tests to do that. So the Cuyahoga Health, as always, has tried to ramp up a bit to add more capacity. We put out some information today, and there will be more forthcoming about the at-home tests and how to use them and what to do if you test positive with those. And we're not encouraging people anymore. If you get a positive at-home test, right, we used to ask them to go confirm it with a PCR. We don't want them to do that anymore. We're just take the positive over-the-counter test and act accordingly on that. So we're trying to make some adjustments there. We will gauge the need. Obviously, the hospital is in communications with us and is interested in making sure that they're able to meet the demand. But we have to do a job over the next few days to reorient the community about what they should do for which type of testing that they need. Because the last thing we want to do is have a sick individual or someone that's been exposed not be able to get an appointment because the appointments are taken for folks doing gathering testing, as we've recommended that they do if they can. So we're working through all of that, and I think the testing has smoothed out a bit. I don't think it's as far out to now to get an appointment as it has been, and I think that will smooth itself out over time, particularly as we get those over-the-counter tests in being used more frequently.
Okay. I asked you this question yesterday, but I ask it again. Any update on the Cornell testing policy during the break for surveillance testing?
Yeah, I think all of that is still under consideration, right? There are challenges in this, right? That, particularly, I don't want to say having a spike in cases is never fortunate, but had that happened in October versus happening at the end of the semester, it would have been a very different thing for us. And the resources necessary to isolate successfully that volume of students is challenging at best and pretty near impossible. So, Cornell and all higher education are faced with decisions about what is the appropriate amount of testing in order to maintain in-person learning. And I know there's probably some folks in our community that say, well, don't do in person, just go to remote. I don't think that's an option for us as a community, right? The devastation that not having students in person would play on the broader economy and just how our community functions. We can't do that. So we have to find alternatives. And I think that's where we are with all of our higher ed partners now is what should the testing protocol be in a highly vaccinated population of normally asymptomatic or very mildly symptomatic individuals that to date has not resulted in a hospitalization, right? So how do we couple that with also trying to limit spread as much as we can in the broader community? So it's a very complex question that unfortunately we have to try to solve in the next 10 days. And there's a lot of conversation and effort going on. What I would offer is that I have confidence that Cornell and all of our higher education institutions, they care about their students, faculty, and staff, but they also care about the broader community as well. And all of their actions and communications with us have indicated that that is a part of their thinking and planning. And so we'll be there with them and we'll come up with a plan. It's not going to be perfect. Everyone's not going to like it, but we're going to do our best to try to limit the impact of COVID in the community for everyone. And that includes students that are a part of our community.
Okay, two other quick questions. One, do you know the percentages of the new variant in the Cornell population or the county population?
So we don't have. We did a sampling of those results, a very small sampling. And in the Cornell students, of all of so initially it was roughly about 90% that we did the screening test on, had the S gene dropout. Of all of those S gene dropouts that were able to be run for full sequencing, they were all Omicron. So it leads us to believe that there's a significant number in that population, and that's why it spread so quickly. In the broader community, again, a sampling is being done. It's a much smaller percentage, but it is there. And based on the transmission rates that we're seeing with Omicron, we do expect that rate is only going to increase in the coming weeks.
Okay, last question. Do you know whether, I know the science is developing in terms of the variant with the vaccines. Do you know whether any of the Cornell students, anybody who has caught the Omicron virus, have been also been boosted?
Yes. Again, a small sampling of them has. It's not scientifically, a valid data that we have, but yes, there have been some that have been fully vaccinated and boosted that did then become positive as well.
Okay, thank you.
All righty, Martha.
Frank, remind me, it's to be fully vaccinated, according to the pre-booster definition, is 2 weeks after your second shot. Is that right?
Yeah, or your first Johnson & Johnson.
And if you get a booster, how long after that until you're sort of fully baked?
Generally, after every vaccine, we say 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, so so the getting vaccinated and getting boosted are critical, but they aren't a protection. Their protection doesn't really take effect until 2 weeks after those shots. So, so just in case anybody is really wondering if I do have to mask, I mean, it's such a simple thing, and it really makes all the difference. So I just want to make sure people realize that there's this gap in time. You're not fully protected until at least 2 weeks after. But so related to the masking mandate from the governor, we've got the complaint portal on the health department website. Can you tell us if there have been any complaints and what's happened with them?
Yeah, I mean, there were complaints the first day. And I think over time, the businesses have become more adept. There's certainly more signage out that I've seen as I've been out and about. Our environmental health folks are reaching out to businesses that we've received multiple complaints on. I was in Target today. I didn't see a single person without a mask on. So I think the mandate, coupled with what is going on in our community as far as the case numbers, has garnered attention. I think as they have throughout, our community is responding. Is it perfect? No, of course not. There's certainly places where masks aren't being worn effectively. But I think, generally speaking, folks are taking it seriously and doing their best.
Thanks, Frank. I had the same experience downtown in like 4 or 5 stores. Every single customer and staff member had masks on. So I think that's really good to hear. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Martha.
Oh, I'm sorry. One other question. When you do start the clinics up again in January, will you, and also, do you need help with contact tracing now and with monitoring people and then help with the clinics? Are you looking for more volunteers?
Yeah, so we're working through our usual volunteer pool with county staff that helps out. We are still recruiting for help in the project assistant and per diem nursing titles for contact tracing and case investigation. So yes, we are definitely still looking for folks to sign on to the team.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for asking that, Martha. Annie. Thank you. So Frank, I heard on the news today that the Omicron variant shows up. If you're testing, it shows up faster. So for instance, they were saying 2 days or 3 days after exposure, it might show up on a test, which is faster than the Delta. So I'm just wondering if you've heard that same thing.
I haven't, and I don't doubt that's what they're saying. I think the info is still not fully developed on all of the Omicron variant and how it's impacted in the body. So I think we're going to be getting more and more information almost on a daily basis about it as the studies are conducted.
Thank you. And the second and last question is, you said if you take a home test, that you're not recommending right now to go follow it up with the tests, for instance, at the health department. So I think you said if you get a positive with a home test, to act accordingly. And I'm just wondering what does that mean, act accordingly? And is that temporary recommendations?
Yeah, so the first thing is to isolate, right? So if you get a positive test result, we need you to isolate from others in your home and obviously from anyone in the public. We are working on some more information, including a place to report to us through our website about a positive at-home test. I don't know that we're going to get to full case investigation on all the at-home tests, particularly if we see that Omicron becomes the predominant strain and is transmitted to a lot of different people, particularly if the symptoms remain mild. So we're going to be shifting our messaging over the next few weeks to, here's what you do if you test positive. you need to isolate from your folks in your home and stay home until you hit that 10-day mark. You may not necessarily hear from the health department. Here's what you need to do. If you have questions, here's where you call, those kinds of things. So we're trying to look at both case investigations and contact tracing in this new environment of over-the-counter at-home testing, and really moving into an environment where it's more about knowing what to do when you get a positive result versus going through all the mechanisms that we've been going to when somebody is tested at a laboratory.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for working on putting out that guidance.
Thank you all so very much. Frank, I wish I had a magical powers that I could, well, one, get rid of this virus, but if I can't do that, grant your staff at the health department, you and the staff, Amy, all the other staff in county who've been working on this for two years, grant you everything that you need, because I know it's been so hard on the staff, but they are so committed and dedicated, and just continue to do it. And I know that at some point we'll come out of this. We'll come out of it, and I want to thank them publicly for what they have been doing behind the scenes in trying to keep our community informed, safe. And when I say they, I'm including you as well, Frank, because without your leadership of the department and trying to juggle all the various pieces, and Amy from higher ed to, community organizations. I remember those phone calls at 8 o'clock in the morning, just informing people where we're going, different municipalities. All of the work that you all have been doing has just kept us as safe as we have been at this point. And you didn't just throw up your hands, and people didn't just throw down and quit. They continue to persevere. And I want to let this public know that it wouldn't hurt to just send a note of thank you. You may not like the answer you get sometimes when you call, and it might be irritating to you, but this staff is working 24/7 to keep all of us safe and continuing to do the other things that need to be done. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart on behalf of everybody in Tompkins County, not just our Tompkins County government, but the entire county, for all the work the health department staff has been doing in light of this pandemic. Thank you. County Attorney and Director of Finance. Jonathan, Bill, anything for us tonight?
This is my last chance to say no report, so I'm not going to miss it. So, no report.
Bill, did you have something you wanted to share?
I would not rain on Jonathan's parade if I can avoid that. So, not out with the flash.
Oh my goodness, y'all are funny. But I missed the last part of what you said.
Me, I said I would not stand in the way of his having his final say here. So I will start giving reports when I next appear before you.
All right, thank you. Finance Director, Rick Schneider. Rick, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you. I'd like to bring our October and November sales tax to you. The only reason I'm bringing October back once again, because there was a slight revision. And I wanted to share that with you, and then we'll look at November's sales tax numbers. I'll share my screen now. You should be looking at October spreadsheet. And are you able to view it?
Yes.
Good. The only number that changed in October's figures, there was a an error on the spreadsheet here where I have it highlighted in yellow, where the county 1% tax outside of city should have been $30,000 higher than what was reported last time that we met. So this number has been increased by 30,000, and the total sales tax year to date, as of the end of October, was $2 million and 6,000. That also increased by 30,000. So I went to the trouble to copy you on the updated report just because the error, it didn't change anything as far as the county's portion or the graph up to that point in time. So I just wanted you to be familiar with, there was a revision to October's figures. I'm starting to sound like the federal government now, where they're always revising the GDP report and getting changed figures, but this was just due to an error. Then I'd like to share November's report, which we're looking at right now. You can see that in November, the sales tax distributions was up 23.83%. That's this figure right here in the middle for the county. It's such a high increase for 1 month. I gladly report that this is the highest November that we have on record. And it even compares favorably to 2019. It's up 6.07% over 2019's November figure. So if we look over to this right-hand side of the spreadsheet in the middle, you can see the county's sales tax distributions were $36,833,000 compared to $30,582,000, which is an increase of $6,250,748 year over year. Year to date, as of the end of November, yes, we do have 1 more month to go, but as of the end of November, we're up 20.44% year to date at the end of November. So that will go down and I'll share with you the graph that you like to see. And in this particular rendering of the graph, get a little bit smaller here. We've only added this one red plotted point here. You can see that it parallels very much the activity from 2019, and it even parallels the activity from 2020. The cyclical receipts stay within the same cyclical format, but the green line here in the middle that goes straight across is our budget. So we were above budget in just about every month for this year. If you look at the statistics in the table down below, I'll try to blow it up here a little bit. You can see for right now in 2021, the sum is $36.8 million in sales tax. Our budget for the year is only $34.8 million. We are presently $2 million over budget as of the end of November, with 1 more month to go. So it's a really good indicator at this point that we're well above budget in sales tax for the year. And now I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Rick. Questions? Thank you, community,
thank you.
for shopping. I can't see the people who are on screen, so I don't know if anybody has a question. I have Annie. If you're on screen, you have a question, just yell out. Go ahead, Annie.
Thank you. It's not a question, but I just wanted to make a comment that to the community, we realize that at least some of the increase in our sales tax revenue is due to increased prices for all of us. So I feel your pain. I know it's been hard. The gas prices are way up, and other prices, the availability of goods is challenging. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thanks, Annie, for acknowledging that. Anyone else? All right, anything else, Rick?
Only that later tonight under facilities and infrastructure, I wanted to comment on the bond resolution. This came up at the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee meeting. The only reason this is coming back to you tonight, and it probably could have been in the consent agenda, but the bond attorney wanted us to bring it back to the entire legislature. The total amount for this green facilities bond resolution that's before you again tonight has not changed. It's still the same grand total. You can't really tell from the wording of this revision, but the grand total for the green facilities project is still $6,315,000. That is not being changed. What we're changing is one of the subtotals. There was two subcategories that had two figures in, and we were increasing one of the subcategories by $180,000 because the two subcategories did not add up. And the bond attorney caught that after we passed the original resolution. So the $180,000 change in that resolution was just so those category A plus category B equal the total bond issue. And it was fixing that error. And that's why you're being asked to pass resolution number J later tonight. I just thought I'd address that now, make it go right through later on.
All right, we might
That's
still
all I
ask
had.
the same question later on, Rick, but thank you. Okay, if there are no other questions, are there any resolutions to be added or withdrawn from the agenda? Deborah?
Yeah, I'm not clear. Lisa has been adding resolutions in my name. And I think in addition to the individual member filed resolutions that appear on the agenda, there's also a third one dealing with the impact of the bargaining agreement changes on elected officials.
You have to add that to the agenda.
Yes, so I guess I would move that.
Okay, so that's establishing health insurance for elected officials. Moved by
Right.
Deborah to add to the agenda, seconded by Shauna to add to the agenda. We need 10 votes to add it to the agenda. I was about to say roll call vote, and 10 was in my head. Go ahead.
Leslie Show, Leslie Show, Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Grandison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Lesley McBean Claiborne.
Yes.
14 ayes, 0 noes.
Okay, so that's added to the agenda under budget.
Thank you.
Any other things to be added or withdrawn? All right, so I'm going to take up the consent agenda quickly, and then we'll take a break. So consent agenda are resolutions and appointments to be voted on as a group unless any member of the legislature requests that a resolution or appointment be instead included separately and individually as part of the business of standing or special committees. Advisory board appointments, we have a wash of them. To the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee from the Budget, Capital and Personnel Committee, Rachel Graham, County Staff Representative, Lisa Holmes, County Staff Representative, Kenneth Clark, Senior County Staff Representative. From the Planning, Energy and Environmental Quality Committee to the Water Resources Council, Cynthia Brock, Municipal Government Member, Darby Kiley, Tompkins County Planning Department, Brian Rahm, Environmental Representative, Holly Payne, At-Large Representative, Frank Proto, At-Large Representative, and Patrick King, Business and Industry Representative. Planning and Advisory Board, Susan Holland, Cultural Historic Preservation Representative, Gay Nicholson, at-large member, George R. France, Agriculture Representative, CJ Randall, Local Planning, non-urban representative, Kathleen Schlatter, Human Services Representative, Ernie McClatchy, Education, #1 representative, Jordan Decker, Energy Representative, and Tom Knight, Business and Industry Representative. Environmental Management Council, Reggie Teasley, at-large member, Lauren Salinger, at-large member, seat #2, Reggie, seat #1. Patricia Dutt, at-large member, seat #3. Peggy M. Ficken, Town of Groton representative. Climate and Sustainable Energy Advisory Board, Alex Rakow. As a member, Danielle Eisman, is that correct? Member, Brian Eden, member, Anthony Ingraffia, member, Sarah Schnabel, member, Stefan Jerka, member, Sarah Culata, member, and Irene Weiser, member. Gavin Mosley and Guillermo Metz, Evan Hollis, all members. From the Health and Human Services Committee, Tompkins County Youth Services Board, Kathy Wunderlich, at-large member, and Patty Van de Bogart, at-large member. To Office of the Asian Advisory Committee, Susan Hatch, at-large member, and Carolyn Byers, at-large member. The Mental Health Community Services Board, Quakey Wunderlich, member, Dr. Augusta L. Duplin, member, Stu Bergman, member, Mary Hutchins, member. To the Substance Abuse Subcommittee, Stu Bergman, Community Services Board member. To Mental Health Subcommittee, Mary Hutchins, Community Services Board member, Beth McGee, community member. Housing and Economic Development Committee, to the Southern Tier 8 Regional Board, Catherine Bogella, Planning Sustainability Commissioner, representative. And from the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, Hillview Road Citizens Advisory Committee, Joel Gagnon, at-large representative. Those are all appointments to advisory boards. And to the agenda, very quickly, from the Housing and Economic Development Committee, Resolution A, appointment to the Industrial Development Agency and Tompkins County Development Corporation Board, ID 105, Board of Directors, sorry, ID 10578. Resolution B, and there's a revised version that came out of committee, appointments to Tompkins County Microenterprise Grant Review Committee, managed by Tompkins Chamber Foundation on behalf of Tompkins County as subrecipient, ID 10614. From the Health and Human Services Committee, Resolution C, continuation of COVID-19 testing contract with Cayuga Health System, ID 10596. Resolution D, authorizing the acceptance of staff recruitment and retention funding, Mental Health Department, ID 10607. From Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, Resolution E, budget adjustment, providing for the purchase of reusable bags, recycling and materials management, ID 10569. Resolution F, award of a 5-year engineering consulting agreement, Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, ID 10568. From Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee, Resolution G, adoption of cash management and investment policy, ID 10567. Resolution H, authorizing 2022 payments for Tompkins Cortland Community College operating budget, ID 10500. And Resolution I, changes in positions of various departments, 10597. May I have someone move the consent agenda, please? Moved by Dave McKenna, seconded by Anna Corman. Roll call vote on the consent agenda.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson, Henry Grandison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Mooring,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes. Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted.
Leslie McQueen Claiborne.
Yes,
14 ayes, 0 noes.
that carries unanimously. Thank you all for that. Is anybody else waiting for any resolutions? Whereof. All right, why don't we just take a quick 10-minute break? And please, let's be back at 7:45.
I'm here.
1, 2, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we can get started. Thank you. Let's move on to standing and special committees. Beginning with Housing and Economic Development Committee, Martha Robertson, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We met last on December 15th, last week, and the next meeting is January 27th. Mike Sigler, are you there? Mike Sigler will be taking the next meeting. Hi, good, all right. We had a great discussion with the people from Pathstone about mobile homes. And I would just point out, there's new legislation pending in the state. It passed the Senate and has not been picked up by the Assembly yet. I'll get the information to Anna Kellis about the right to buy, about the option, an opportunity to purchase, and it would make it easier for people in mobile homes to purchase the parcels that they are, where their homes are situated. So that could be a real justice opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'll get the legislation information from Pathstone. We had a report from Nick Helmholt about the broadband study. They got 4 responses to the survey that we asked for, that we were looking for broadband around the county. They interviewed 2 finalists after the meeting. So I don't know the results of that. They will be bringing to the legislature in January a proposal for one of those contractors to do the survey study of all roads in the county. And we had a report from the Chamber of Commerce from Jennifer Tavares about the micro enterprise grant. They have gotten more applications than expected. And so they've got people already in the TC3 business program. It's already gotten started. So they're very excited to have so much interest in the program. So those are just a few of the highlights. Related to, I guess there was another development at the Community Housing Development Fund related, which happened since the last legislature meeting, related to the North Side Apartments complex that's being, the old apartments are being taken down and they will be replaced. 72 townhomes will be replaced by 70, will be replaced by 82 new units. The Housing Fund voted last week to add 140,000 to the award to Northside so that they can purchase heat pumps. The State Department of Housing and Community Renewal is going to add more money into the pot as well. And this was a real, I think, a real accomplishment. Big thanks to Brian Eden from Heat Smart to work with the developer and to work with the Ithaca Housing Authority, and especially to Lenny Skrill at HCR for putting that effort in as well. So I just wanted to say quickly, one thing about the committee itself. Every agenda this year has been jam-packed. I guess since I've been on this committee, it's been a jam-packed agenda. I know there are a lot of conversations going on there's some conversations about structure of committees next year. I understand that staffing our committees is a challenge. So I would put in a plug here. I think the Tiger Committee could be sort of folded into Budget, Capital, and Personnel. Downtown Facilities will be folded into Facilities and Infrastructure. So when we've in the past tried to have one committee that had planning and housing and all of these things, essentially putting peak and the HED together, it's been a huge challenge and we never get to everything. And in fact, one of the ways to deal with it was always to pull tourism out of HED or out of planning and put it into Budget, Capital, and Personnel, which didn't really make any sense. So I would just really urge that if you can trim by 2 committees by taking out Tiger and downtown facilities, it's worth the legislature's time to keep housing and economic development separate from planning and environmental quality. I think you would lose a lot if you tried to squish them together. So just a quick plug in there for the work of these really important committees. Thanks.
Thank you, Martha. Any questions to Martha? All right, moving on. Downtown Facilities Committee, Dave McKenna, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Downtown Facilities has not met since the last legislature meeting. And I would just like to take this opportunity to thank all my committee members for the last couple of years for your hard work. And I can say is we accomplished all our goals a month early. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dave, and thank you for leading that committee. Any questions to Dave? All right. Public Safety Committee, Rich John, Chair.
Thank you, Leslyn. The Public Safety Committee met on December 16th, and we had a good discussion about issues related to policing in the encampments downtown. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 20th. And I just note the current population of our jail is 37 people in and 3 board outs. Happy to try to answer any questions. Oh,
thank you, Rich.
But I'd also say thank you to the committee members, and particularly Dave and Glenn, who are retiring, for their work on the committee. I think we had a good year.
Thank you, and thank you, Rich, for chairing. Any questions for Rich?
Jonathan has his hand up.
Oh, Jonathan.
So maybe I missed it. Did we forget the consent agenda or did I miss it?
You missed it, babe.
I missed it.
I missed it.
I
Okay.
went through that sucker like lightning. You missed it.
All right.
Was there something you wanted to talk about or? Okay. All right, you did, Jonathan. I'm not sure what's in your brownie, but you did. Health and Human Services Committee.
But it's a legal brownie.
Health and Human Services Committee, Shauna Black, Chair.
Thank you. We met yesterday and passed a few resolutions. We were given a short COVID report. And let's see here. Our next meeting will be the 3rd Monday in January at 1 p.m. And we will go over our priorities that we had set for this year and wrap up the year.
All right. Any questions for Shauna? Seeing no questions, Shauna, thank you for chairing Health and Human Services.
My pleasure.
Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, Mike Lane, Chair.
Yes, we did meet on the 16th, had a full agenda. Some of that's been taken care of on consent. I will mention the one thing on consent was the renewal of our airport engineering consulting agreement with CNS. And that was after a review by our staff of the various different proposals that had come in, and they recommended that we stay with them. Even though it's a 5-year contract, that doesn't prohibit us from hiring other engineers if we want. And anytime they give us an estimate to do something, it has to be under FAA rules, has to be confirmed or reviewed by another engineering consulting firm. We've had a good relationship with them for a lot of years. Rick Snyder mentioned the resolution we're going to have about amending that resolution regarding the bonding, and simply for a correction. I wanted to say that we had an Itctc meeting today. That's Ithaca Tompkins County Transportation Council. A couple of things I would just mention to you. The New York State people were there, transportation people, and said that the structural steel has nearly been erected at the Route 34 bridge. But because of the cold weather, we're still not going to be able to pour the concrete on that. And they're still aiming for an opening by June. We passed a resolution at this legislature confirming the salary for the director of the Itctc based on what had been proposed by the county at that time. Since there's now a new contract with the white collar, which that tracks, we will see an amended resolution coming, which will change that salary benefit to the same as the white collar people.
Thanks for the report, Mike. I know you have the resolution, but any questions to Mike on his report? Okay, go ahead with your resolution, Mike.
This is Resolution J, amending the bond resolution relating to resolution number 224 of 2021. That's a mouthful. For various capital improvement projects at various county facilities. That's the ID 10547. I do move that.
Have a second, please. Seconded by Dave McKenna. Discussion. All right, seeing none, let's go to vote.
Leslie Show. Mike Sigler.
Yes.
Shauna Black.
Yes.
Amanda Champion.
Yes.
Deborah Dawson.
Yes.
Henry Grandison.
Yes.
Rich John.
Yes.
Dan Klein.
Yes.
Ann Corman.
Yes.
Mike Lane.
Yes.
Dave McKenna.
Yes.
Glenn Maury.
Yes.
Martha Robertson.
Yes.
Leslie Show. Leslyn McBean Claiborne.
Yes.
We have 13 ayes, 0 noes.
All right.
And if I could just say, thanks to my committee members, and certainly to Dave McKenna for being vice chair this year. We had also Ann Corman and Dan Klein and Glenn Maury. So thank you to all of you.
And thank you, Mike, for being chair of facilities and infrastructure. All right, Tompkins Intergovernmental Relations Committee, Martha Robertson, chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I should have thanked the HED members in my last report, Shauna, Henry, Annie, and Mike. So thanks for a good year's work on those important issues. And thanks to the Tiger Committee, Mike Lane, Deborah Dawson, Henry Grandison, and Mike Sigler as well. So Mike will be at the helm on January 11th. That's the next meeting of Tiger. The last meeting we had was December 14th. And I would just put out, there are a few dates coming up that'll be pretty important that the committee might want to pay attention to. January 5th will be the governor's State of the State speech. And January 10th, the legislature will start its session. So there will be stuff to talk about. I'm sure that NISAC folks would probably be available to come to the meeting if you look out for them and give them a heads up. On December 14th, the meeting we heard from Amanda Spellacy in Senator Schumer's office, as well as the Cornell folks that we usually hear from, and Patrick Cummings from NISAC. One of the things that came out of that was to talk about childcare. Now, the previous Tiger meeting, we'd made a connection with Zoe Nelson from Cornell in Albany, and she put us in touch with some people in the governor's office to talk about childcare and capital grants for new programs and new slots. So we've got with Michelle Artaby from Cornell and Melissa Perry from the Child Development Council, we've sort of got a conversation going there with pitching for money for childcare slots in the governor's budget. And that led to a conversation with Patrick about NISAC's legislative program. And I realized, and bang my forehead, NISAC doesn't talk about childcare. It's never in their program. So I kind of said, well, it's not too late to ask them. So in fact, we do have a meeting tomorrow with Patrick Cummings, Brian Gregoire, and Alex Lamont at NISAC. Sean is going to join us. And again, the folks from Mildred Warner and Michelle Artaby from Cornell and Melissa Perry from the Child Development Council, trying to sort of educate NISAC about Tompkins County being a childcare desert. We have a good number of programs that are ready to expand, and 4 of them got regional council grants, but they just need more money to actually get those expansions going. So we want to make sure that NISAC picks up on that issue and maybe does more in the future. So I guess those are the main things. And again, I just want to thank everybody from the committee. I really enjoyed getting into these discussions that we've had. We've had wonderful cooperation and communication from Cornell in Albany and Washington, with Diane Miller in DC and Charlie Krasansky in Albany, and Amanda Spellacy from the governor's office as well. So I think that in the future, the Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee might be a great place for some of these issues, because especially with NISAC, we do see they give us really great advice on the state of the state's budget, which obviously affects the county's budget. So I think that might be a great place for those issues to land in the future. So again, thanks for the opportunity, Leslie, to chair this committee, and good luck with these issues in the future.
Thank you very much, Martha, for chairing as well. Questions to Martha? Whose hand do I see up? Deborah.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. And thank you, Martha, for chairing this committee. I've told you this before, and I'll say it one more time for everybody else's benefit. This is the most interesting committee I've ever been on. I never fail to be amazed at the breadth of the topics that we cover, and I am really grateful to you for putting it together and organizing these meetings as you do, and bringing Amanda Spellacy and Diane Miller and Charlie Krasansky and the folks from NISAC, and occasionally other people as well, in to keep us informed.
Thank you, Deborah. I really appreciate that. And I would say that the committee's questions, like especially to Amanda Spellacy, that's like monthly lobbying, because just by her knowing what we care about, what we're interested in, this is a really important feedback loop. So, and as well with NISAC. So yeah, it's been great. And thank you for your questions, Deborah, on great discussions in those meetings. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, the idea behind that committee was to bring lobbying here. We would normally travel and go to Albany or Washington to do our lobbying, but we wanted to bring it here to us, especially in light of COVID. So I'm glad to hear that lobbying sort of strain continued. All right. Government Operations Committee, Amanda Champion, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will channel Jonathan Wood and say I have no report. The committee will meet again on January 6th at noon, and I do have one resolution.
All right, go ahead with your resolution.
This is Resolution K, appropriation from contingent fund and authorizing county administrator to amend the existing consulting agreements for administrative and budgetary purposes, county administration. And I would move that.
Moved by Amanda, seconded by Leslie Schill. Discussion on the resolution. Seeing none, let's vote on it.
Leslie Schill,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Grandison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Lesley McBean Claiborne.
Yes.
14 ayes, 0 noes.
That carries unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, Amanda, for chairing. Gio. Planning and Energy and Environmental Quality Committee, Ann Corman, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We met, our committee met on December 15th, and I would also like to thank our members of the committee for this year, including Vice Chair Deborah Dawson, who has helped me a lot learn how to chair this type of committee and coordinate with the different various advisory committees, and also helped spearhead getting the case board going. Dan Klein, Amanda Champion, and Dave McKenna, who also we share the coordination and the representation of the town of Enfield. So I will miss him especially. And well, he'll be the only one probably that won't be here in January for my committee, I think. And so our next meeting is January 24th at 1:30. And then I'll just talk a little bit about what we did briefly. We approved some advisory board appointments, which you saw already and have been approved. And the case board, all those terms are for 3 years, as I mentioned in a previous meeting, because the case board was approved for 3 more years, and then we'll reevaluate that. And we might be looking at evaluating a lot of our advisory boards at that point. John Negley came from Soil and Water, and he talked about their work plan for 2022. One issue in particular that struck me was with a lot of the conservation efforts, especially having to do with addressing hazard mitigations and water management, is they have difficulty with filling the gap with some of the programs with some monetary funding in there. So I told them we would talk about that in the coming years, just because there are important things, for instance, especially to help farmers, bridge that gap to really do conservation efforts around water management. And Sarah Kulata came, who is the chair of the case board. And she, as I said, we approved some advisory, all the advisory board appointments for that, and also for the planning board, the Water Resources Council. I think there might have been more. And we also passed a resolution having to do with soil and water to contract with Tompkins County to provide interim financial assistance and support. That will be at our next meeting, because we just had this past meeting only 6 days ago. So that'll come up in January. So we will talk about it then. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Any questions for Annie on her report? Seeing none, Annie, thank you for chairing Peak this year.
You're welcome.
Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee, Deborah Dawson, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my committee this year was myself, Martha, Mike Lane, Rich John, and Glenn Morey, all of whom were of enormous value to me because I had never chaired BCP before. Thank you all for your wisdom and your contributions and your patience. We were also blessed to have Michelle Coco as our clerk. And of course, we're all going to miss her terribly. I have to say that we had committee goals at the beginning of the year, and then COVID continued, and then there was ARPA, and then Jay leaving, and then, we had Lisa as the interim county administrator, and then Kevin announced that he was leaving. And fortunately for me, we had Lisa and Daniel and Samantha Freilich and Ruby, of course, who was wonderful. So I thank you all, because I don't know what we would have done this year without all of you. Also, speaking of Ruby, I got an email from Ruby about 4:00 this afternoon, because one of the things we had mentioned briefly at our last BCP meeting was what the demographic breakdown was of our workforce. Ruby has that information for us, and she has prepared a PowerPoint presentation, but I suggested to her that since we don't have all of the relevant census data that we need in order to provide a workforce availability and utilization analysis, this demographic breakdown of our workforce is of limited value to us in figuring out how well we're doing with workforce diversity and inclusion. So I proposed to Ruby that I would just send you all the PowerPoint that she sent me. In respect to the big question, I guess, I could give you the breakdowns on race and ethnicity of our workforce, 90.22% of which is white. And then that other almost 10% is a combination of Black or African American, American Indian and Alaska Native, Asian Pacific Islander, Hispanic or Latino of any race, and multi-other. So the total minority demographic in the county workforce is 9.79%. I will send you all the PowerPoint. In the interests of time, I think we can just move on to our resolutions, which will probably trigger some discussion. The first is Resolution L, resolution to revise and update the Tompkins County Diversity Statement, ID 10573. And I would ask Henry Grandison to move this.
Sure, I move it.
And I will second it. I will also ask Henry to speak to this because this is WDIC's resolution.
Yes, WDIC spent a whole year on this new diversity statement. We also got input from the employees. We also got input from the JEDI team. We also got input from the various people who are on the committee. So this is a much shorter version of the diversity statement, but again, it's also the work of us over a year. And so we really would hope that it is accepted for what it is, and that we can start on diversity planning after this. So I'll take any other questions.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that you and WDIC did on this all year long.
Yep. Any questions?
All right, Martha.
So you don't want to do any wordsmithing right now, Henry?
No, I do not want to do any wordsmithing.
I think there's some commas should be moved or whatever. So. No, this is really important. Thanks for hanging in there and getting it done.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to just chime in and see Deanna up there and thank Deanna because Deanna did a lot of the heavy lift with this, sending it back and forth to us, to the employees, making the revisions and sending back out for us to chop it around some more. So, and finally just saying, that's it, along with Henry. That's it, it's going. So thank you all so very, very much. And thank you, Deanna. All right, let's vote on it. Did we have a move and a second on it? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I moved in Deb second.
Okay. Leslie Shill,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Grandison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Absolutely.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslyn McBean Claiborne. Of course. 14 ayes, 0 noes. Thank you all. That carries. And go ahead, Deborah.
Okay, next resolution. Next year we will be electing our county clerk and our sheriff. And because of the changes to the state's election laws, their primary will be in June. And they have to start circulating petitions in February. So Kathy Covert brought to our attention that we needed to set salaries pronto. So the first resolution is Resolution M, resolution setting compensation and hours of work of the Tompkins County Clerk for the term of office for January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2026, ID 10576, and I move that.
May I have a second, please? Shauna Black seconds. Discussion.
The
All
reason
right.
for this increase is as stated in the resolution. The clerk's hours, for some reason, are set at 35, when in fact she works 40 or more hours a week and should be paid accordingly.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's vote.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Grandison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Lesley McBean Claiborne,
Yes,
14 ayes, 0 noes.
it carries unanimously. Go ahead, Deborah.
Thank you. And then the next is Resolution N, resolution setting the compensation of the Tompkins County Sheriff for the term of office January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2026, ID 10572, and I move that.
Seconded by Shauna Black. Discussion.
Again, the reasons for this are stated in the resolution. There are increases to various subordinate members of the sheriff's office that have resulted in them being paid more than the sheriff, some by a considerable amount. So.
Mike Lane.
Yes, and basically this increases his classification by a labor grade.
Or the equivalent thereof.
I should say his, I should say the next sheriff's
Yes.
compensation by a labor.
And that's actually going to save us some work down the road. Thank you for bringing that up, Mike. Because what happened is the undersheriff's salary and labor grade was increased. So this would assure that in the future, the sheriff would be one labor grade higher than the undersheriff.
Okay, thank you. I'm just a little hesitant because I'm not sure why that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whereas is in there about the undersheriff's compensation, particularly because we don't know who's going to be sheriff the next time around. And although the situation is what it is now, with the current sheriff and undersheriff, I'm not sure what bearing that has on setting the salaries for the next election and sheriff. Martha.
But doesn't the undersheriff, even though the undersheriff is appointed by the sheriff, isn't the labor grade just kind of set by the county policy?
The labor grade makes sense. So I don't have a problem with the labor grade.
I mean, for the undersheriff, so that salary wouldn't change for the next undersheriff, is that right?
Right.
I don't know. Is that correct?
Okay,
thank you.
That's the case, yes.
Thank you, Ruby. Okay. All right, let's vote.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Grandison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lean,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Martha Robertson. Yes. Leslie McBean Claiborne,
Yes,
14 ayes, 0 noes.
that carries unanimously. Go ahead, Deborah.
All right, the next one is Resolution O, authorizing a public hearing on local law number blank of 2022, a local law increasing the compensation of the Tompkins County Sheriff, ID 10598, and I move that.
May I have a second, please? Second by Martha Robertson. Actually, no, I'm sorry, seconded by Mike Sigler.
Thank you. This would set a public hearing for us to consider a local law that would implement the increase in the sheriff's salary sooner than the beginning of his next term. Sorry. I think Jonathan wants to address this.
Yeah, I do. I realize in looking at this that now that you have adopted Resolution N, the local law which sets the sheriff's salary effective March 1, 2022, should say and ending December 31, 2022, because now you've adopted a resolution setting it beginning of 2023. So
If you're offering that as an amendment, I would say.
I'm offering that perhaps you should suggest that as an amendment, because now that you've adopted the other resolution, this law would only be effect for that short period of time.
Thanks, Jonathan.
So Deborah, you're accepting that and offering up as an amendment, and is that friendly to you and Mike Sigler?
It's friendly to me.
Okay. Questions, Martha and then Mike Lane.
For Jonathan, is that an amendment to the resolution? Because I'm not sure I see it there, or is that an amendment to the local law?
No, it's an amendment to the local law, but given that we're setting the public hearing, it should be clear what the local law says. And now the local law should be limited for just that year.
So I'm sorry, where would that go in the local law?
In the first sentence of the second sentence where it says effective, ends with effective March 1, 2022. It should say and ending December 31, 2022.
Okay, thanks very much.
Sure.
Okay, Mike Lane.
I'm not going to support this. I've served in elected office on the county legislature now for 24 years. Previous to that, I served 12 years in village government. I have never seen an elected official's salary increased during the term of office. I understand from Jonathan's research that this can be done. I think it sets a terrible precedent. Apparently, the sheriff has asked for a raise. Apparently, the chair of the budget committee wanted to recognize that and get it on the floor. And that's why we're looking at this possible public hearing today. I realize that other folks are out there wanting to get in good graces with an elected official, but I don't think that that's what we ought to be doing. I think the elected official should hold his or her position until the re-election by the voters. And in this case, as we have with the last resolution ahead of this, we set a new salary level for the sheriff, whoever that may be, whoever's elected next year. And I don't think that setting this is a good idea. Any elected official can come to us now and say, oh, well, you did it for him. How about doing it for me? I don't like that. And I will not support it. And I realize the argument that says this is only scheduling a public hearing. And normally I like public hearings and will listen to them. But the underlying issue here is so anathema, as far as I'm concerned, to good government that we shouldn't proceed with it.
Thank you, Mike. Ann Corman and then Rich John.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I try and, I just want to speak to what Mike Lane said. I think in general, I try and like say my opinions, and I know I don't always do it, but just speak to the whole body. But I feel compelled to speak to what Mike Lane just said, and if I have the words correct, that he said that I believe referring to us as colleagues, legislators, that elected officials want to get in the good graces of the sheriff.
I didn't say that, I said people.
Okay, well, that's what I have written down, but so were you referring to your colleagues?
Referring to people who would be speaking at the public hearing.
Okay. I just want to say that that your statement does not apply to me, and just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Okay. Rich John.
Thank you, Leslin. I share the same concerns that Mike Lane has expressed. I certainly don't want to get into a debate about anybody's motives for what they're doing, but I worry that we set a precedent in considering this that really is not a healthy one. And I can understand why the public would look at us with some skepticism on this issue. So I'm going to vote against. Thanks.
Thank you, Rich. Shauna Black.
So I have always thought of good government as doing things such as a public hearing and allowing the public to come in and speak their mind so that we can make the best decision. And that's why I will support this resolution. With that said, law enforcement is truly about the chain of command. And whenever we talk about salaries, I don't believe that we should have undersheriffs that are making more than our elected sheriff. Whenever you look at chain of command, it doesn't work that way. Typically, the person at the top, whether it be your department head, whether it be your president or vice president, the person on top should be making more. So I will listen to the people that come and speak at our public hearing and base my decision on that, as well as the fact that I do still believe that the chain of command is essential, and we should be paying our sheriff more than we pay our undersheriff. Thank you.
Shauna, Deborah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, back in, I guess it was 2018, when the legislature that preceded this one was considering the county charter, which I gather is a periodic activity. One of the issues that arose was whether or not our sheriff should be elected or appointed. And I followed that debate quite carefully. And I actually was among the members of the public who strongly felt that the sheriff should be appointed because it increased the sheriff's accountability to the legislature. The public weighed in on that, and they were vehement in their support for their right to choose who their sheriff was. As far as I can tell, that's why we still have an elected sheriff. And since the public is the sheriff's boss, in the same way that they are ours, and since they're the ones who should have a say in whether or not this sheriff should get a raise in 2022, or whether the sheriff's salary should remain the same until the beginning of the term in January of 2023, I believe that we owe it to that public, those voters, to hear what they have to say about this particular issue. We can argue 6 ways from Sunday after we hear from them as to how we're going to vote on the actual law that underlies the public hearing, but I think we owe it to them to hear what they have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Leslie.
Thank you. Listening carefully to this conversation. Generally speaking, I'm a supporter of public hearings. I like to hear from the public. I like to give our public a voice and to make sure that we actually listen when they come and speak to us about matters that are important to them. I can support a public hearing for this. I won't be here for the public hearing. When the public hearing would come, should I still be here, which I won't, I would vote no. I think this is an elected position. And much like the legislators that are here tonight, that is also an elected position with a pay scale that everybody goes into the game knowing, you know, you're going to be an elected official. There is a small amount of money that comes along with that. And that's what you have during your term. And as an elected official, I think it's important that we hold up that standard. And so that we know that election cycles and terms and the terms that come with those terms actually hold gravitas. As far as the hiring and firing and elected officials, it's very different to have an elected person who's a leader and having other staff that are, you know, at will hire or fire. That is a very different position. So the sheriff and undersheriff are in very different positions from an HR perspective, I would say. So something to think about. I am open to hearing from the public. I would love to hear what the public thinks about this. So I will support a public hearing. But if I was here for that other discussion, which who knows, I'll ghost in and see how folks are doing on this conversation. I think elected officials should probably complete their term with the understanding and keeping the compensation that they were elected to carry through.
Thank you, Leslie. May I ask a clarifying question? Because I don't remember. When the legislature votes to set the salaries, similar to the resolutions we just passed, it's for the length of the term. And usually we have a raise built in to each of the years. Is there not a raise built in for 2022 already for the sheriff?
Rosalind, if I may.
Yes, you may.
My understanding from a conversation I had with Lisa just yesterday is that we, the legislature, file a resolution at the beginning of the term for the other electeds, setting the level of increase to their salary to jive with whatever the white collar management and confidential percentage increases are. And I bet Jonathan knows this better than I do, so I'm going to shut up.
No, that's what I was going to say. The resolution says that the increases go with management. That's what it is.
So there is an increase that's already going to happen in 2022. Because I keep hearing that the sheriff, there's a raise in 2022, but there's already a raise that's built in. I just want to clarify, that's all.
If you pass the resolutions that are on tonight later on, which provide for a 4%, then the sheriff would get that 4%.
Right. Okay. All right. That's what I wanted to clarify, because I thought it was already built into what we passed 4 years ago. Thank you, Martha.
In general, as people have said, I'm in favor of hearing from the public, and I'm a little bit mystified about the idea that there would be some harm in hearing from the public. It still will be a legislature decision, obviously. The idea that members of the public might come and speak on this issue to get in the good graces of the sheriff, I think assumes not much professionalism on the part of our sheriff. So I'm just saying, I think there's really no harm in having the public hearing and a lot of benefit to it. Thanks.
All right, our colleagues are entitled to their opinion. We all have our opinions. Mike, did you have your hand up again?
No, I'll pass.
All right. Thank you. Let's just take this to a vote.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Granison, Rich John,
No.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
No.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Henry Granison,
No.
Leslie McBean Claiborne.
No.
Ten ayes, 4 noes.
That carries. All right. Deborah, is there any, oh yes, you have a resolution that was added to the agenda.
Well, yeah, and we also have 2 that were listed as member filed that also basically would have come out of BCP had the white collar bargaining unit completed
Yes.
vote. So I don't know if you want to do those 3 all together or.
Why don't you
Okay.
just go ahead, Deborah?
All right. We have Resolution P, ratification of the bargaining agreement by and between the County of Tompkins and the Civil Service Employees Association, Inc., Local 1000, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, Tompkins County Local 855, good Lord, Tompkins County White Collar Unit 8900, CSEA, close paren, ID 10613. And I move that.
I have a second, please. Seconded by, can't see. Who just seconded? Shauna Black. Any discussion? Dave McKenna. Dave, you had your hand up for discussion?
Yes.
I called on you.
Yeah, I second.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
I seconded it.
Oh, he was seconding it.
That's fine. Seconded by Dave McKenna. Got it. All right, Martha.
I think this is probably in my email inbox, but not sure. Do we have the total dollar amount required to meet this agreement? In particular for the, forward and back?
It was about 1.1 million for the retroactive to January 1st of this year, and approximately $1 million for each year going forward. Lisa did send us an email with that information earlier today.
Yeah, I saw that something came in, but I didn't have a chance to read it. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, let's vote. I don't see any other hands. Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Granison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslie McBean Claiborne,
Yes,
14 ayes, 0 noes.
that carries unanimously. Thank you very much to the negotiating team. Thank you to our white collar employees, everyone for negotiating in good faith and getting to this point. Go ahead, Deborah.
Okay, resolution Q, establishing salaries for positions designated as management and authorizing for transfer of funds for salary adjustments, ID 10611.
May I have a second, please? Seconded by Mike Lane. Discussion. So I want to ask a quick question echo question that Martha asked earlier, and I might have given her erroneous information. Is it just management or is it management and confidential? Lisa?
I can speak to that. So this resolution is only required for management because confidential, it automatically follows the white collar per resolution 77 of 2007.
Okay,
The legislature.
thank you. Just want to clarify. Martha.
That's very helpful because I thought it was resolution 78 of 2007. Thank you, Lisa.
All right, let's vote.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Granison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslyn McBean Claiborne,
Yes.
14 ayes, 0 noes.
Yay, that carries unanimously as well. Wonderful.
Thank you all. And the final one is a resolution establishing health insurance for elected officials, ID 10623, and I move that.
May I have a second, please? Shauna Black seconds. Any discussion? Dan Klein.
FYI,
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Deborah.
yeah, I was just going to say, my understanding is that this merely puts into resolution form our standard practice.
Okay, and if we have any further questions, we'll ask County Administrator. Dan Klein?
Thank you. So did this go through committee?
No, there wasn't time.
What is the timeliness of it? Because we never, have we ever done this before?
I will let Lisa address that.
I can speak to this, Dan. It's not been documented anywhere. It's been our practice. So this was merely putting something down in writing to provide staff the adequate guidance needed now and in the future. But it has been our practice, our past practice, that management, confidential, and elected officials follow the provisions for health insurance of white collar. It's been stipulated for management and confidential, but never elected officials. They've just kind of followed. So in order to make the changes necessary in a timely fashion for the changeover for January, February, we were looking for this direction and thought that we would do this for now and in the future.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. Let's vote on it. So basically what we're doing is putting in writing what we've been doing for years as the practice. Okay, let's vote.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Granison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Ann Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslyn McBean Claiborne,
Yes,
14 ayes, 0 noes.
that carries unanimously. Thank you. Is there anything else, Deborah?
Nope, that's it for tonight. And this
All
year,
right. Thank you, and thank you very much, Deborah, for chairing Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee. Moving on to Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee, Henry Granison, Chair.
We gave out the Strength and Diversity Award tonight to someone. And otherwise we finished, our last meeting was December 1st. And so we're done for the year. So no report.
Thank you very much, Henry, and thank you for chairing the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And might I say, at a certain angle, it looks like you're wearing a Santa hat.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I looked up at one moment and I said, oh, Henry, don't put him on a Santa hat.
how festive.
Yep.
All right, let's take up the minutes of the previous meeting of December 7th.
Leslin,
Yes?
I had one other item, if I might.
Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to give a report from the Industrial Development Agency, wrapping up the year there as well, thanking Martha and Mike Sigler for their work, and noting that we finished the year with one item that I think will be of interest to the legislature, which is that we reached an agreement and passed a local labor policy. And this was a project that has been in the works for, I think, 4 or perhaps even 5 years of trying to determine, Mike Sigler is indicating 8. It might have been 8. It's certainly been under discussion for a very long time. When we had determined several years ago that we did not have sufficient data to really understand the use of local labor on projects. And that was what we did. Initially, we collected data from, I would say, 20 some projects. And we then formed a subcommittee, and Mike Sigler, I want to say thank you for heading that committee and getting us a draft policy. And we received a tremendous amount of public input on this policy. It represents, I think, some very good efforts at thinking through the issues and compromising. And we now have adopted a local labor policy of 75% local labor, although there is a waiver process that covers various circumstances, such as, let's say, warranty issues, lack of local labor, price differential, specialized skills, and then there's an override for extenuating circumstances. A developer can come to the whole IDA and seek a waiver. But this is a significant move by the IDA, and we finished the year on it, and I was very happy we finally got there.
Rich, thank you for stopping me so that you can share that, because I think that is indeed a big deal. Good Lord, it's being talked about for a very long time. So I'm glad to hear that that happened. Thank you very much. And Dan, you are rocking the Santa hat. That's all I gotta say. Martha.
Yeah, I just want to add that there's a waiver for affordable housing projects as well, so that there's so that we don't sort of burden those projects any more than they already are. And that was important. And just to mention that the housing policy is going to be reviewed again at a meeting in January. So that's also been a big step for the IDA. Thanks, Rich, for your leadership. Number of years on that board. It's been really important, and really appreciate all the work you put into it.
Thank you.
Mike Sigler.
I wanted to thank Rich for the kind words. I also wanted to thank Kurt Anderson for all the work he put into the labor policy. He really stayed on top of it and really helped push that along. I actually wrote a letter to Heather McDaniel to thank Kurt, just really for a lot of effort put into that labor policy, because, you know, at any point it could have stalled out, and we kind of didn't let it do that. And that's kind of how we got to the finish line on it. So thank you, everybody on the committee, for kind of pushing that forward. And again, thanks to Kurt Anderson for pushing that forward as well. And certainly a great job to Heather McDaniel for hiring Kurt, basically for having a great staff over there. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Mike. Deb Dawson.
Yeah, thank you, IDA members. Thank you, Kurt Anderson. Thank you, Annie Corman, because I know that you started pushing this during your year on the IDA. I've always believed, especially based on the statutes that establish and govern IDAs, that their main purpose is to create jobs, good jobs in our locality, in any locality that has an IDA. So I think we're taking an important step in the right direction with this new policy. And I hope and pray that waivers will be infrequently granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ann?
I also wanted to thank Todd Brewer, who is an IDA member and the president of the local trades building consortium, and then Dave Marsh, who is the regional chair for regional president for that, and then also Brian Notaboom from the Carpenters Union working on this and helping us as all the members, the staff at the IDA, and the committee members that helped us work on that. And I was very proud to be on that committee for 2 years as we worked on that. And it's a great accomplishment for the local people. And families, we often talk about, Martha and I often say this and talk with others of you we talk a lot about affordable housing, but we don't talk about good jobs so people can afford the housing here and afford to pay to live in this county, which is pretty expensive. So thank you. And this was for the people here.
Good work, everyone. And again, Rich, thank you for chairing the IDA. And thanks to all of you for your liaison assignments as well. I think as you go into the new year, that's one of the things that, often or every now and again, just sharing what's happening with those other agencies and organizations that we are liaison to helps to keep us all informed in what's going on. So thank you very much, Rich. And thanks to the entire IDA, all of you who served on it for your good work. Let's move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, which is the meeting of December 7th. May I have someone move the minutes, please? Martha Robertson does, seconded by Dave McKenna. Any discussion on the minutes? Let's vote on the minutes.
Leslie Shook,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Grandison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Ann Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Last vote, yes.
Leslyn McBean Claiborne,
Yes.
14 ayes, 0.
Yay. Sorry. On the unfinished business, once again, I just want to thank you all for trusting me and leading this legislature. Shauna and I, over the last couple of years, whatever decisions pan out for leadership next year, I wish you well. Best wishes with everything that will be on your plate next year. COVID is not going anywhere, and so you will continue to work on that. Although I said, whatever I said, I'm around if I can be of any help or resource. I know pretty much all of us going off, a phone call, only a phone call away. Thank you to our staff, Kathy, Brittany, Michelle, Katrina. Oh my God, my heart is heavy. You all keep us going. You keep us you're the glue that keep us together. And we could not do this without you. You know everything. Just have the wisdom to tell us how to solve some things that are seemingly difficult to us. So truly, we appreciate you all, the late nights, everything. We don't do enough for you. I would say it out loud. And so we thank you publicly, this entire legislature, for everything that you do for us.
Hear,
Without
hear.
complaint. Without complaint. So new folks coming in, treat them well. I know where all y'all live. Again, thank you and happy and safe.
We have executive-
I'm sorry? Oh, we have executive session. I forgot.
So that wasn't our last
Taking
vote.
any action in executive session? I can't remember. Lisa?
No.
No.
No, we're not. So we're just going to adjourn when we come back. So I'm going to wish the people in Zoom land who watching us. Happy and safe holidays from all of us at Tompkins County. Motion to go into
Should
executive.
announce the purpose.
Oh. Oh my gosh, Lisa, why are we going into executive session? I forgot.
Just to discuss labor negotiation.
Yes. May I have a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing labor negotiations? Moved by Shauna Black, seconded by Deborah Dawson. All in favor of going into executive session, let's vote.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Granison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslyn McBean Claiborne,
Yes.
14 ayes, 0 noes.
All right, we'll take some time to shut down. I was in such a
Lisa.
hurry.
Lisa, would you like to be involved?
I don't think it's necessary at this point, Rick. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good